Hello, my name is Diane, and today we're going to do a quarterly check-in for the final quarter of the year. We're now in the last 3 months of 2024. I don't think this is going to be a very long check-in. I haven't been reading very much at all in the last 3 months, but I do still like popping in to see where I'm at with my reading goals, what I can do in the next few months. So the last quarter, I spent the majority of my free time getting a lot of work done, trying to wrap up a bunch of projects. I've had a lot of things on the go, and I just needed to focus on one thing at a time and finish everything. I'm still not done with everything, but I did get a lot done over the summer. I also spent some time crafting, making miniature things, and planning some other craft projects that I'd like to do. And I also got married a couple weeks ago, so we spent a bit of our free time just planning and preparing for that. We didn't do anything too big, but still took time to plan. It was a lot of fun. And then we went away for a week, which I didn't really spend a lot of time reading while we were away because we were busy being away and exploring and eating lots of food. So these are all good things, not complaining that I did all of these other things rather than reading, but I do really like reading, so I wish that I had had more time for that. I wish I had time to do everything all the time, but that's just not reality. So normally I would check in on my goals that I set at the beginning of the year, which I honestly haven't looked at since I think the beginning of the year. I don't even remember what they all are. And I also normally pick my favorite book of each month that I read, my favorite book of the quarter, any releases that have come out that I still haven't gotten to but really want to, any releases that are coming out still in the year that I'm really looking forward to, things like that, the usual things. But since I've hardly read anything the last 3 months, I'm not going to be picking my favorite reads of the last 3 months because that's just ridiculous. So I am going to pull up my goals that I set at the beginning of the year and see if I'm doing any of them, because I honestly don't know what they were except for one, which is to read 52 books, because that's what I set every year. And I know I'm behind on that. And then we'll just talk about what I have been reading. Okay, so the first goal is to read 52 books. Right now, I've read 31 books, which isn't bad, but that means I have to read 21 books in the next 3 months to reach this goal, which is 7 books a month, which isn't that much. I could do that. I don't know if I'm going to make it, but I think I'm still going to try to do this. But I'm really going to have to dedicate more time to reading to make this happen, which I'm currently reading a few books, and I just checked out a few books from the library, so we'll see. I'm not going to be too disappointed if I don't hit this goal, but I think it would be really cool to reach this goal. It always feels good to reach your goals. My next goal was to read the books on my TBR, which I have a few owned books that I still haven't had a chance to read, and I've also been doing the try chapters for my TBR because I think it's just gotten way too long. I have too many books on my TBR, so I've been doing a try chapter to get that down to a much smaller number. So I guess I'm kind of doing that. I'm not really reading the books on my TBR, but I'm reading the beginnings of books on my TBR to see if I want to even keep them on my TBR. So I'm not really doing this, but I'm kind of doing this. The next goal was to read ARC's monthly or advanced reader copies. I haven't been requesting or accepting any advanced copies recently because I have 3 right now that are actually already out, but I haven't had time to read. So I'm not going to be accepting anymore until I finish those and actually know that I have the time to read them by the time that they come out, because I would rather someone who's going to be able to read and review the book get that copy than me take it and just never know when I'm actually going to get to it because I know I don't have the time right now. So again, I'm kind of doing this, but not really, just because I haven't been receiving any new ARCs because it just feels kind of irresponsible right now. The next goal was to consistently post, which I haven't been good about the last few months. I've been pretty sporadic with posting anywhere. However, last month I did pretty well about posting regularly, and for the rest of the year at least I had all of my posts planned out, and then I reevaluated based on how much free time I have or have not had and changed my planned schedule. So I think now I have a schedule that is going to make more sense and I can consistently keep up with, but I'm also not going to say what that schedule is because I may change it again because I just changed my plans twice, so they're not really set in stone. We'll see. So I haven't been doing this, but I'm planning to be doing this for the next quarter. And the last one was to participate in the book community more, which I've kind of do, but not really, mostly because I haven't been reading a lot. I don't have a ton to add to conversation on any book topics. I have been keeping up with book news and new releases and things like that. But as far as just interacting with people and discussing books, I haven't been doing a ton because I haven't been reading a ton. So I don't think I'm really doing great at any of my goals, but also I don't really feel bad about it because there's really no consequence to any of those things. But I would like to prioritize time for reading a bit more for the end of the year. Let's talk about some reading stats at this point in the year. I've already said that I've read 31 books this year. I've also DNF'd 6 other books. Of all of those, 2 of them were debut novels, 11 of them were authors that I had never read from before. And my best reading months so far this year were March and April, where I finished 7 books in each month. So not too bad. As far as what I read last quarter, in July I read the 3rd volume in the Umbrella Academy graphic novel series, Hotel Oblivion. I ended up DNFing this. It's just told very chaotically for my liking. It feels kind of piecemeal in the way it's presented. Things are just happening and I don't know. It wasn't for me. I didn't really enjoy the first 2 volumes, and by the time I got to the 3rd volume, I was like, why am I still reading this? Great concept, not really for me. Then I also read volumes 2 and 3 of the Dragon Age graphic novel series, which are Those Who Speak and Until We Sleep. I liked these. I didn't love them. I don't plan on reading any more of the Dragon Age graphic novels. I'm glad I finally checked these out, but they're not really anything that stood out to me. In August, the only book I read was Le Fay by Sophie Keach, which is the sequel to Morgan Is My Name, the retelling of the life of Morgan Le Fay. I've been loving this series. I'm still very much interested in reading it and seeing this particular version of Morgan Le Fay. I'm very excited to see what happens in the 3rd and final book of this trilogy. I'm also very glad that it is a trilogy, because after the first book I really just wanted more, and I really loved getting the 2nd book. I really enjoyed it. I was still just as engrossed with this story as when I read the first one. So that was the only book I read that month, but it was a really good book to read that month. And then in September, I also only finished 1 book, and that was A Sorceress Comes to Call by T. Kingfisher. And again, the only book I read, but definitely not a bad thing because it was a great book. This is a retelling of the Goose Girl fairy tale, kind of sweet and endearing, but also kind of dark and messed up, some of the things that happen. I feel like there was a good balance where some awful things do happen in the story, but the characters and the way certain characters and the way they interact with one another were really charming and endearing. So those are all of the books I read last quarter. Not a lot, but the ones that I did read I really liked. Very low quantity, very good quality. Right now I'm currently reading The Sword Unbound by Gareth Hanrahan, which is the sequel to The Sword Defiant, and also The Dwarves by Marcus Heitz, which is the first book in the Dwarves series. I'm enjoying them both at this point, and I've got a handful of other books on deck for when I finish those. And otherwise, I'm still going to be trying to wrap up projects, probably starting a bunch of new projects. In any case, my main bookish goal for the rest of the year is just going to be to make more consistent time for reading, because it's something I want to do a lot more and just haven't been able to make the time for. So let me know if you read anything exceptional in the last quarter, if you have any main goals for the rest of the year reading wise, or just in general. Otherwise, that's all for me today. Thanks for hanging out with me. See you next time. Bye.